So across your various transformations, which you've clearly, grown a passion for and are very capable in as well, would you say there is a playbook there developing or fully fledged that you know now that 1, 2, 3 looks like this in most transformations?
Well, so there is, let's talk about the transformation on the people side, and then there's a transformation on the brand side. And
we'll come to the people section in a moment if we can.
Okay.
Let's focus on the commercial
side.
Brand market.
Okay. So on the commercial brand side, I think the first thing that is critical and that I do naturally and I've done always is to do a really thorough root cause assessment. And so many people skip this step. And, if you skip this step, you solve the wrong problem. You end up solving the expedient problem, the popular problem, the easy problem, or whatever you happen to like doing the most. But what you need to do is not do that. What you need to do is really go in deeply and understand what is actually going on here. And normally what you find, because most of these businesses that I've been transforming have been going wrong for a while, is that it started with 1 or 2 things. So by the time you get to it, it's just a confluency of things. It never is just one thing. I think I've told you before the concept of entropy. When I was in engineering school in physics, we learned about entropy. And entropy is what happens to any natural system over time if energy to keep it in order is not constantly applied. So basically, if you're not applying energy to keep the system in order, it will deteriorate into chaos over time. And that's what happens with these businesses. Something goes wrong and management starts to lose the grip on something. And before you know it, we lose grip on something else. And before you know it, you got what you got. And you got a long time declining business or an unprofitable business or an unsustainable business. And so I do a deep root cause analysis. We face the reality of what is so, while we also build a vision that we will actually win in the end, that we will get that business back. And how do I do that? Is by going back into the brand's DNA. So if you look at Axe, for example, which is called Lynx in the UK, by the way, for those of you in the UK or Australia who may be listening to this, Lynx Axe. When we went back to that, one of the things that we quickly realized through the assessment is that the brand, it started as a fragrance brand in France in the early 80s. And it was a way to provide a great fragrance deodorant for men. But fragrance was the heart of it. And what happened was the communication in the heydays of Axe was amazing. I don't know if you remember some of these ads, but oh my gosh, some of the best advertising I've ever seen came from this brand and the amazing work that Unilever was doing with it. But the brand had a bit of cheeky angle where, because the focus was fragrance and attraction and humor, it was going into a bit of sexualized humor. So women coming down from poles and women chasing men and angels falling off the sky for the guys. You're smiling. You know what I'm talking about. Beautiful work, but of the different age.
Yeah.
And then the Me Too movement happened. And all of a sudden, this work was just no longer appropriate, okay? And so the team in charge of the brand, instead of saying, okay, the brand is about fragrance, humor, and attraction, how do we find a modern, relevant way to do that? They pivoted the direction and tried to change the brand for what it was supposed to be about. Honestly, Eric, I've never seen it work. And I think it's math, actually. It's simple. I was also a big studier of statistics. A brand that has grown to be the size of Axe and the global relevance of Axe behind the point of view is proven. That DNA is proven. Some team comes out of nowhere and decides we're going to reposition it to be a masculinity. Seriously? Like, that is a very big bet.
Yeah, indeed.
And I think it's a lot wiser to just grab onto what is true about this brand and just find a new way of expressing it.
Yeah. And presumably at some point we ask the consumers what they like as well.
Well, 100%. But here's the thing. This also I learned at P&G. The consumer can only react to what you put in front of them.
Indeed. Yeah.
So we have to be able to get from the consumer, not just what they tell you, but what they cannot tell you. They're dreaming of or they're feeling. So it's an art to really get in there and understand. And I have to say, I was very lucky because Unilever is also a company that deeply understands this, deeply understands the consumer, deeply understands marketing and brands. And so what we did is we took the time to really understand what was going on. And Unilever gave me the space to do that. I mean, I'll tell you what, in the US, it took us some time. In Mexico, it took us a whole year to understand what was going on. It was a different problem in Mexico than in the US, than in Russia, than in India.
Right. So your root cause analysis really paid off then, because different problems, different places. Yeah.
Different problems, different places. But there were some common problems like lack of pricing, lack of innovation. You know, it was a multi-thing problem. But to close on your question about the playbook, diagnosis, apply brand discipline, and then look at the business holistically, because at the end of the day, the financials of the business have to make sense. So a lot of the work also we did was on gross margin, making sure that we were selling things that we could then invest in to grow the brand. So P&L shape and all of that is part of the equation. You can't just do the pretty marketing stuff. You also have to do the financials.
Now, you mentioned before the Unilever ecosystem when you were doing the Axe or the Lynx transformation. So what role did your boss at the time, maybe that was one of the people you mentioned before, what was their role in this transformation? Because a lot of people watching, I guess, will have a chairman or a board or some other boss or maybe an investor who's looking over their shoulder as well. What was your experience?
I have to say, I had great bosses in that role. The two guys who hired me from P&G to come join them, my direct boss was Santi. He was running the deodorants business for Unilever for many years. Brilliant man, still a friend and mentor. And Sonny Jane, who was his boss, he was running all of Unilever Beauty at the time. And he's the one who I knew from P&G. Sonny gave me support. You know, just to know that somebody in a new company knew me and had my back, that was important because it was a new company and a big challenge. And a lot of people thought I would fail because they've tried before and it had not worked, right? It's not like I was the first one trying to do this. And so having that trust helped a lot. Santi was great because I've said this to him many times. He could have easily tried to get into my shorts and try to tell me how to do the job. And he didn't. He hired me and he trusted me. And when I needed help, I would go to him and he would challenge me, but generally he trusted me. And you know, honestly, sometimes we hire senior people with a lot of experience and then we try to tell them what to do. And I think it's key that we're super clear on what is the objective. I knew what the objective was. I knew what the metrics were. I knew what the timeline was. I knew the constraints. I had to make the financials work and all of that. But once you know that and you hire somebody you believe is strong, let them do it.
Yeah.
And Santi allowed me that space.
Such an important point, and so many people overlook it, particularly having hired smart talent. You know, you got to give it space.